Welcome to Fight Club 24/7. My name's Johnny Rashman. Right, let's get straight into it. My random MMA story. And this is random and it's all true, as I will back it up. Right? Picture the scene. It's 2017. At that point of my life, I am working in a sales office, right? The owner of the office had an MMA company, right? And they had a few MMA events. The event was called Tanko. If you're an MMA fighter, you'll remember them. If you're a hardcore MMA fan, especially in Manchester, you'll probably remember these events. So it was called Tanko FC. I think they had 3 MMA events. My job was to work on one of the events, right? Because I was a salesman at that time, I was told that anyone who came to the event, who purchased a standard ticket, my job would be to sell them tickets at the front of the event. So if they had a normal ticket, I don't know, for £40, for £80, you can sit right at the front, or you can sit at a table, or you can have a meal, whatever it is, whatever it was at that time, right? And I sold a shitload of tickets. But the random thing about this was the MMA card. Now, looking back, it's actually madness to see the names on the card. So let's go through it. The date was the 11th of February, 2017, right? And it was called Tanko FC 3. That was the event. It was at Manchester Victoria Warehouse. And I'll show you on here the card, right? So this is the main card. Let's start from the beginning. Mohamed Mokaev. Right? Yes, the same Mohamed Mokaev who fought this weekend in the UFC, who's probably gone into MMA folklore by the fact that he just didn't tap from that knee bar. What an unbelievable mentality. Now, I was working at the event, and Mohamed Mokaev, he must have been about 16 then, or 17. This was 2017, remember, so it was a good 6 years ago, right? So this kid comes in, and he's having a bit of trouble at the gate. The security just wouldn't let him in. So I get called over. His training team's there. And they're telling me, they're saying, they won't let Mohamed in. I said, what do you mean? They go, they won't let him in. For whatever reason, they won't let him in. So I'm speaking to the security guard. He's saying, the kid's 16. He has to be with a guardian. And I'm like, listen, mate, he's fighting. I'm working at this event. This is the name. He's fighting in the event. Right? So the security guard's like, well, you have to be his guardian. This is what he said to me, right? You have to be his guardian. So I'm looking at this kid, Mohamed, yeah, right? He's trying to get in, right? One of his coaches said to me, I'm telling you now, this kid is going to be one of the best fighters in the world, right? I'm telling you. Now, I get told that a lot. Did I believe it? Not really, because I get told that a lot. But I was interested, right? So Mokaev will always remember this. This is not a made-up story. I've said it a few times, but from my new followers, you might not have heard it. So I agreed to be his guardian, right? And I escort him in. He goes to the dressing room. So then I'm sorting everything else out for the other fighters coming in and selling tickets, etc. So then I start watching some of the fights, right? And I said to myself, I'm going to watch this Mohamed Mokaev fight, because I don't know, if his trainer's telling me that, he must have something about him. So I watch him fight. He just absolutely ragdolled this guy, threw him around the cage. The opponent was Liam Gittins, just threw him around the cage. I think it was 3 rounds. And I remember thinking, this guy's got it. This guy has got it. This guy can be one of the best fighters in the world. Straight away, that's my automatic thought, just from seeing a few minutes of him, right? And I'm not one for them. And I'm not one for taking pictures and taking selfies. Like, I'll take a picture of you, but I'll very rarely take a selfie, because there's nothing worse when you're taking a selfie with someone and they just don't want to be in the picture. I don't know why people post that. It doesn't make sense to me. I'll take a picture from in someone's company and I'll get someone to take it. Like, I don't mind that. But I'm not one for taking pictures every second, right? But I said to myself, I need to get a picture of this guy. So we came out the ring, took a picture of him. Straight away, I said to myself, this picture is going to be the type of picture I'm going to be telling people in years to come. I was just convinced straight away this guy's going to be a superstar. Right? I think his nickname was White Tiger at the time, if I'm mistaken. I'm sure Mokaev will clear that up. We'll get him on the channel at some point. But it was random. It was random. And I remember sending him a tweet the day after saying, along the lines of, I think you'll be one of the best in the world. You'll be an undisputed champion. This is 2017. Have a look. And then a few years later, I was actually working at an MMA YouTube channel in Manchester, and it came up again. And this is what I said. I've said it before. I've said it on my Twitter years and years and years ago. And I'll say it again. Muhammad Mokaev will be an undisputed UFC champion. He'll go down as one of the best fighters in the world. Better than Khabib, in my opinion. He's got better striking. He's young. I believe he's young. I believe he has a better career than Khabib. I know it's some shot saying that, but this guy is the Terminator of fighting. Look at his social. He dumps people up like I dump the trash out. It's just unbelievable. I've never seen a human being just. It's frightening how he carries someone and smashes them, and he smiles in his pics. There's countless pictures of him. He's either got a guy up and he's about to smash it, and he'll smile. Or he's ground and pounding him.
I think we'll see him in the UFC in 2 years.
UFC, he will reign the UFC. So straight away, I was sold on Mokaev. Before people knew who he was, by the way. It's easy to say it now, but I've been championing this kid for years and years and years. I just knew he was something special. Just from those few moments of seeing him, how composed he was. You remember he was 16 or 17 at the time. And that was going through my head. I'm thinking, oh my God, 16 and 17, he's that composed and he's that talented. What is he going to be like when he's 20? When he's 24, when he's 30, this kid has got the potential to be one of the best in the world. And that's what I thought. And that picture will always stay with me, right? It will always stay with me, that picture, because you can see how young he is in it. And I called it right. And I believe he will be one of the best in the world. He's on his way to that. He's that good. But let's look at the other fighters on the card, right? Lerone Murphy, again, another UFC fighter, right? What a story this guy has. Oh my God. If you don't know Lerone Murphy's story, check it out. I did an interview with him, must have been a few years ago. And straight away, I asked him about the incident outside, I think it was a barbershop, I think it was 2013. He had an altercation, not in a bad place in Manchester, where he basically got shot in the face. I think he got shot like 6 or 7 times. Just completely batshit crazy story. Unbelievable. He literally spit the bullets out. At this point, Lerone had never done any type of combat sports. He went to the hospital. Obviously, he's fearing for his life. He's been shot multiple times. In the face, by the way. Not in the leg or the arm. In the face. Unbelievable. So he survives it. Then he starts doing MMA. And I remember hearing Brendan Loughnane saying, I've got this kid training with me called Lerone Murphy, and he's so talented. And he kept mentioning his name. I didn't realise he was on the card till I looked back a few weeks ago. So he was on the card. So you've had Mokaev, you've got Lerone Murphy. These are legitimate UFC fighters. Now, Jack Cartwright. Shout out to Jack. Jack should be in the UFC. He was former Cage Warriors bantamweight champion. Cartwright shot to fame when he won a Cage Warriors bantamweight tournament, I believe. He knocked 2 of his opponents out consecutively back-to-back. Right, and it was a ferocious knockout, by the way, both of them. So you're thinking at this point, Cartwright's going to be one of the biggest names in Manchester, not just in Manchester MMA, but UK MMA. He's got legitimate KO power. He's such a good all-round fighter. He won the Cage Warriors World Championship, and for whatever reason, it's just not worked out for him so far. He's had inactivity, and I think he's had promotional issues. He was on Dana White's Contender Series. I don't even know why he was on that. It was a joke. He should be in the UFC anyway. I think he lost that fight. It was a tight decision, but he's been inactive, and I believe he'll get in the UFC card. Right, he's too good not to, and he's exciting. He goes in there to knock you out. He's got legitimate KO power. So he was on that card again. I didn't realise till a few weeks ago when I was looking at it, and I thought, God, look at the names on this card. But a name that really, really stands out, right? And this is for your old school, hardcore MMA fans, right? Charles Felony Bennett. What a random name to have on this card. Can you believe it? Now, if you don't know who Felony Bennett is, Google him. He fought for multiple promotions for Pride. He had a big altercation with Wanderlei Silva, where I think they had backstage, he had a brawl, and he's just known in MMA circles like he's a bit of a character. So he was main eventing the event. He actually lost. This is him in this picture here. But it's just crazy if you're going through these names, and there'll be other names that you'll see stand out here. Adam Proctor, Abdul Chowdhury, who used to be an SBG fighter. I think he's training at his own gym now. good talent. Let's just recap. You've got Muhammad Mokaev, you've got Lerone Murphy, you've got Jack Cartwright, and you've got Charles Felony Bennett, all on the card in Manchester, right? And basically a small hall show in boxing terms. You call it a small hall show in MMA terms, basically. Just a local promotion. You've got all these names, and look what they've gone on to achieve. Like, it's crazy looking back. Absolutely mental. And at the time, I remember thinking, there's some of these fighters are going to go a long way, but I've seen it a lot where you see fighters with potential and they're going through the small hall circuit in Manchester, and for whatever reason, it just fizzles out. Maybe it wasn't the right timing. MMA is a hard game. There's not much money in it at the beginning, and especially years ago where it wasn't as big as it was now. I've been watching MMA since 2007. Now, granted, I wouldn't say I'm a hardcore MMA fan like I am with boxing. I tailed off a little bit the last few years, but now I've come back to it. But I was a hardcore fan from 2007 till about 2016. Really, so I saw a lot of fighters coming through, So I do have a good understanding of MMA, but as I say, I'm not a hardcore extreme fan like I used to be. I did used to be a hardcore fan. I love it. I used to watch it every month. It was on the old Bravo channel in the UK, where it wasn't even live. You had to watch it the day after, and we'd always have me and a house full of friends just watching the fights. Chuck Liddell, Vanderlei Silva, BJ Penn was a god to me. GSP, Anderson Silva, as I just mentioned, just John Jones coming through, Cain Velasquez, just so many talented fighters. It was a great time. It was a great time because there was legitimate stars there. And I feel the UFC have lost that a little bit. They have lost that big pay-per-view star. You've obviously got Conor, but apart from Conor and John Jones, there ain't many pay-per-view stars on the UFC roster. But back then there was loads of stars, and it was just a different time to watch it. Now, yes, it's evolved and it's got bigger, and obviously the athletes are getting better and better, but there was just something about it. From 2007 to 13, 14, it was just good days in the UFC. It really was. But yeah, it was a random story, this, because as I say, just looking back and the fighters on that card, especially Mokaev, he just stands out. I mean, my word, you all would have saw that knee bar on Saturday night. I mean, how didn't he tap? Unbelievable. 99% of people are going to tap. Like, he has gone into MMA folklore now. Like Dan Hardy did. He's another name where GSP, I think he had him with an arm bar, and you had to tap. Like, there's no if, buts, or maybes. You're tapping, and he didn't tap. And same with Mokaev, and you're just thinking, he's cruising to another victory again. He's on course to be the youngest UFC champion. And then he gets caught with that knee bar, and you're looking at him. And I said to myself, he ain't tapping Mokaev. He's not going to tap. He's not going to tap. But then it's deep and deep. The deeper it's in, you're thinking, he's going to have to tap here. And I don't know how he didn't. I don't know how he didn't tap, because there was no way out of it. It was just bona fide pain. 100% pain like I would never be able to describe. And to take that and then get the submission victory, my word, what a mindset. What a mindset. And he's got all the ingredients and qualities to be one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time. I'm telling you, he doesn't go out drinking, he doesn't go out partying, he doesn't go out thinking he's a big star. He's a humble guy from humble beginnings. He's had a tough life, and that's molded him into the character he is today. And you can see that those life experiences all came at once. And that's why he never tapped, because he's gone through stuff. He's gone through the hard roads. He's gone through bad times in his life. He's not had money. He's been that kid who's not had money. He's had to fight and scrape for everything he's got. And now he's successful. He ain't going to let the money get to his head. I'm telling you, he is a seriously dedicated guy. And you saw it on Saturday night. He will always be remembered now as that guy who never tapped. So it's a good thing. Yes, he might be out with an injury, but fighters will have that mentality. They'll know, fucking hell, I'm going against a serious dog in Mokaev. That's a serious dog, because there's very, very few people who can take so much pain and keep moving forward. We all have different pain thresholds, and MMA fighters, all of them are just supermen, like just completely unbelievable characters, dedicated. But there's only a tiny, tiny amount of people who have that ridiculous dedication where they ain't going to tap. No matter what, they ain't tapping. Because there are some fighters who might be partial to a tap, right? Mokaev isn't one of them, and he proved it on Saturday night. But that's it. That's my random MMA story. I'm sure if you look at that card, you will see it's a random card for a local MMA show. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think of this MMA card? What do you think of Muhammad Mokaev? Do you think he can be one of the best MMA fighters of all time? Like, comment, subscribe, let me know.